Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and happy Saturday evening to everyone. This is a new episode of the Right Info Podcast Show with your host, Kane Twan, speaking tonight. I apologize for not hosting any past podcasts because I've been so busy and all that stuff, taking care of business, working and whatever, and making sure everything is taken care of with personal and financial and business matters. Tonight's topic I will discuss economics, currency, and banking school debates. Now, this podcast will briefly introduce two scientific approaches to monetary policies. In particular, it will be important to mention the debate between banking and currency schools. One should also identify the leading representatives of the two schools. It's important to illustrate the influence of these theoretical approaches to the decision of policymakers. This thesis will be a statement about the importance of the currency and banking schools, especially the influence of these ideas on the monetary policies of various countries. Now, this is something that economics would deal with, money people, the big money people, economists and all that, especially dealing with financial situations. Now, this part of the podcast examines the importance of currency and banking schools. In particular, it's important to show how the ideas influence policy-making decisions. Now, for instance, much attention should be paid to the ratio or the relation of the real bills doctrine to the U.S. monetary policies. This argument will also show if the issues debated by the 19th century economists remain relevant nowadays. Now, the ideas of past economists dealing with, inflation, the economy, capital and all that, it pertains then back in the 19th century and the 20th century, and it does with this century as well here in the 21st. The issues that they discussed then, you discuss now. The schools of banking, which I've just talked about, is two of them. One dealing with the financial situation of banking and one dealing with the economics. So it's intertwined with each other. Now, banking, people go to school to learn about banking, finances, how to handle their money and stuff and all that, investments and whatnot. Something I wouldn't mind going into because I love investing and making money. I mean, who doesn't? And that's just great. Now, the other school deals with the economic idealism of financing and banking. Whether banking will make a strong economy, will it strengthen the economy, will it make it any better than what it is now? Hopefully that we don't hit into the idea of inflation coming our way. We don't want inflation because inflation can lead to a recession, and that's something we definitely don't need. So the two banking systems are alike, but they are different, and people tend to look at them in a very different way, in a different manner, depending on who you're asking and how you're handling it. Kind of like the financial crisis that we had back in 2008. Money and economics played a big role in that. We had to help bail the banks out while Main Street was suffering and the housing bubble burst, a burst that was unbelievable. Now, the two schools that I'm discussing in this podcast, they helped a bit. It kind of intertwines with that because knowing what to talk about when it comes to financial situations and how to use that money to help get certain situations taken care of. That's what the investors, the big banks did. Well, the money that they received from the government, the government used their financial education and all the money to get the big banks out while the little man suffered. And that wasn't right. And a lot of people were real pissed off about that. But, going on some years later, things seem to calm down. There's fears now of a recession coming on with inflation trying to trickle into the situation. But we're very much handling it the best we can. And, with all this going on, we're doing everything we can. The government is, at least, and we are as citizens trying to understand, get a full understanding of what's going on and how to keep ourselves, intact above water and hopefully not get caught in the crossfire of a financial downturn. So with that being said, this was just a small podcast about the financial schools. Nothing too big, nothing too small. I just want to talk about this issue or this topic because it's been a while since I gave a podcast. It's like going on a month now. Like I said, with business and personal matters having to be taken care of, and I had to finally get back into the swing of things of giving a podcast. So I hope everybody learned about what I talked about, what I discussed as far as the two schools are concerned. The two schools of banking and economics, the currency of it, it was very interesting to know. There were debates about it. There's a debate about it still going on today. So those debates are still happening, and people are trying to decide what's best for themselves in the event of inflation or the event of a recession, and trying to get a better understanding of how that education can get them through the situation. So with that being said, this is the end of this podcast. And this is King Twan speaking. Hoping you all have a very great, wonderful Saturday evening. With the end of March coming and April is right around the corner. And happy spring to all those who love spring and all. And wish you all, the very best. You all have a good night. Love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.